If you look at the major AI models in 2026, the race for raw intelligence is effectively a tie. OpenAI's GPT 5.5 and Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7 are passing the same PhD-level tests and writing the exact same caliber of code. Staring at technical benchmarks to decide where to spend your $20 a month doesn't make sense anymore. The numbers are simply too close to matter for daily tasks. The actual difference between these tools comes down to psychology. It is about how each platform handles friction, maintains your flow state, and reacts to your specific work habits. On paper, they check the exact same boxes, but you do not own these AI models. You rent access to them on a server. And how those companies choose to distribute that rented power dictates exactly how you have to behave at your desk. This brings us to compute rationing. It is the hidden mechanic governing every modern AI tool. Every time you hit enter, the system decides how much processing power you are allowed to consume. So the choice isn't about which AI is smarter. It is about which platform's rationing rules cause the least disruption to the way you naturally think and work. ChatGPT Plus is designed for the all-day iterator. If you are the type of person who thinks out loud, you can treat ChatGPT like a messy scratchpad. You can throw half-baked thoughts at it, change your mind mid-sentence, and fire off a dozen quick follow-up questions without a second thought. ChatGPT gives you a massive ceiling, up to 160 messages every 3 hours. You can pepper it with inputs, and the gauge barely moves. Because the limit resets cleanly, your momentum is protected. You rarely worry about being locked out. It also supports you when you step away from the keyboard. You can snap a photo of a whiteboard or talk through a complex problem using advanced voice mode while you commute. All these features combine to create an ambient assistant. You can switch from data analysis to generating a marketing image to drafting an email, all without ever leaving the window. But that high-volume flexibility comes with a tax. If you ask ChatGPT to write something, you are almost guaranteed to get the recognizable, slightly generic ChatGPT voice. It tends to give you a formulaic first draft, heavy on the bullet points. To get it to a professional standard, you usually have to argue with it, steer it, and manually edit the output. It also lacks the specialized local terminal environments that developers rely on for complex coding. It acts as a powerful generalist rather than a master specialist. Ultimately, ChatGPT optimizes for resilience. If you are a manager or a marketer who values keeping the workflow moving over getting a perfect first draft, this is your tool. Claude Pro requires a completely different approach. It is a precision instrument built explicitly for the deep worker. Claude excels when you hand it a massive amount of context, like an entire codebase or a 50-page strategic document, and ask it to synthesize the information. The response you get is exceptionally nuanced. Claude produces human-sounding first drafts that actually follow your tone instructions, requiring very little editing on your part. For developers, it offers Claude Code and agent teams, operating autonomously right inside your local terminal to manage complex, multi-step software builds. But there is a severe penalty for this level of quality. Claude is extremely sensitive to compute fatigue. Anthropic gives you around 40 to 50 messages per window. Upload large files, and that allowance drains rapidly. If you try continuous chatting with large files in memory, you hit a hard stop, getting locked out in the middle of your task. This creates immediate psychological friction. You start second-guessing your prompts. You compress your thoughts and artificially ration your questions to avoid burning through your limit. That constant anxiety about hitting the wall actively punishes you for brainstorming freely. Claude Pro delivers the highest quality output on the market, but it will absolutely break your flow state unless you adapt to working in highly intentional, batched sprints. To make your decision, we can look at this quadrant chart mapping workflow styles. It ranges from continuous generalists on one end to focused specialists on the other. The two platforms sit at opposite poles of the modern AI workflow. Let's look at the first path. If your day is filled with software engineering, long-form writing, or strategy work, then you demand deep analysis, subtle nuance, and local coding environments. For those tasks, Claude Pro is the mandatory choice. You just have to accept the friction. You will need to learn how to batch your prompts and survive to strict usage limits. The second path looks different. If you are a marketer, a project manager, or a generalist, you iterate constantly across a dozen tabs and rely on voice queries or image generation. Here, ChatGPT Plus is the clear winner. The friction you accept here is the cleanup. You will spend extra time manually editing that generic AI tone out of your final deliverables. There is one final exception. If you are an agency or enterprise power user relying on AI for 6 or more hours a day, the highest return on your investment is paying $40 a month to use both. You keep ChatGPT open for continuous daily momentum, and you deploy Claude for the heavy analytical lifting.